So, hello everybody. Today we are going to play Grimrock Isle. Well, we're going to start on Grimrock Isle. Grimrock Isle is quite an old solo adventure for Call of Cthulhu. It's in the same vein as Alone Against the Dark, Alone Against the Wendigo. I played Alone Against the Dark and I thought it was terrible. And you saw me play Alone on Halloween, which was not much better. And then, of course, because it was, as all of the Chaosium productions, way too over-engineered, there was way too much Cthulhu in there. It didn't have a story. It was more like, oh yeah, let's have one more. Oh, let's have 10 more Cthulhu entities in there. Now, Grimrock Isle was not written by Chaosium. It was licensed by Chaosium. So my hope is that whoever wrote this took a slightly more intelligent approach than the Chaosium guys usually do in their own adventures. And if I sound disgusted with them, I truly am, because I'm still waiting for them to produce something that actually makes sense. So we're going to play Grimrock Isle. Grimrock Isle, when you bought it, and you can't buy it anymore because apparently it seems to be out of print and you can't get it. I bought this in 2009. And it was new when I got it. I believe that they did a print and play, or print on demand rather. And somebody actually signed my copy. Somebody possibly called Michael Szymanski, but that could be wrong. And he says he is the author. So I just assume that this is correct. Let's look at this. It comes with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 solo modules, and it also comes with a campaign that you can play on Grimrock with other players. If you choose to run this as a player with a group, you should not be playing the solo adventure, because otherwise you will lose a lot of the enjoyment. It comes with handouts, and like any of these games, it comes with a timetable, because obviously in order for you not to keep going, because there is no external threat, when you play solo you have to time yourself. I've created an investigator. Her name is Antigone Chase. She's an antiquarian. Holds a PhD from Miskatonic. Her birthplace is Arkham. She is 39 years old. She has a couple of points in anthropology, 26, archaeology, 31. In art, she has a specialization in sculpture for 15. Her bargaining skill is 15. Her sculpting skill in craft is 15. She has 26 dodge, 40% first aid. Hide is 40. History is 80. Library use is 75. Listen is 40. Occult is 45. Her other languages are Greek and Egyptian for 26 Egyptian hieroglyphs, 26 each. In her own language, English, she has 75%. Her persuade is 30. Spot hidden is 85, and she has a handgun skill of 30. Her hit points are 11. Her sanity points are 75. She has no damage bonus. She is strength 11, con 13, size 9, dex 13. Her appearance is 4, so she isn't the most beautiful person in the world. Her sanity 75, intelligence 15, idea roll is 75, luck roll is 75, no roll is 75, power is 15, education is 15. So let's get cracking. This basically explains how you play the game. Grimrock Isle is an adventure set in the summer of 1922, and the solo portion is designed for a lone investigator. Keeper's information is also provided for a group scenario. See the Book of Terrible Knowledge. The Book of Terrible Knowledge I have sealed away. I'm not going to look at it. Do not read the Grimrock Isle group scenario until you are finished with the solo adventure. Your goal is to solve the mystery of Grimrock Isle within the allotted time span without exceeding your expense account, and of course to survive to tell of your harrowing adventures in the town of Doves Bay. Her yearly income, by the way, is $10,000, so she is quite rich. Many encounters contained in this adventure are dangerous but not necessarily fatal to players who are cautious, thinking and prepared. Blind blundering is not advised here, and remember, research can be as powerful a weapon as a loaded shotgun. This adventure is open to any occupation type, and you may bring along whatever equipment you currently possess that you think may be useful, and that you are able to carry yourself. Anything you do not bring must be purchased on Dove's Bay with the expense money you will be given by your client. When this money runs out, so does your buying power. Your timetable, located on the back of the introductory page, is divided into 5-minute segments. At the end of most paragraphs in this scenario, you will find a notation of the amount of time that particular paragraph is taken up. Keep track of this. So this is, I made a copy. You're free to copy this. Keep track of this time by placing an X in each time box that you've used up. Some entries have no such notation, and these will cost you no time at all. In Dove's Bay, it will take you 15 minutes to travel from one location to the next. All other time intervals are noted at the end of each paragraph. So, you must eat 2 meals a day, and they must be at least 8 hours apart. Each meal requires 1 hour of your time and cannot be made up the next day. For each day you spend without eating, you will lose 1 con point, which can only be restored by eating. Remember too that a reduction of your con will affect your hit points. 6 hours a day must be devoted to sleep. The time of day you choose to sleep is up to you, but you must select 6 consecutive hours for the rest to do you any good. For each 24-hour period that you go without sleep, you will lose 2 con points. However, sleep can be made up to an extent. If you decide to make up for lost sleep, you can restore 1 con point for every 12 hours you spend asleep. Obviously, you must have lost con points to be able to do this. It is essential to keep track of time while in Dove's Bay. For certain locations you may wish to visit, keep strict business hours and may not be open when you get there. Once you have been given the particulars of your assignment, you can begin your investigation by visiting several of the locations to be found in Dove's Bay. Now, the list of locations is over here. It's like the Dove's Bay directory. So those of you who have played Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective will be familiar with the idea of having a directory. So we have Dove's Bay Realty, Tobias Armbruster, open 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Mondays to Fridays. Mrs. Gordon's Boarding House, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Saturday. Sorry. City Hall, Charles Public Library, Monday to Saturday, 9 to 9. Dove's Bay Gazette, 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday, noon to 3 p.m. on Sunday. Enos Wade's Boat Rentals, available 24 hours a day. The Seaside Tavern, 4 p.m. to midnight, Monday to Saturday. Dove's Bay Church, open 24 hours. Doc Bloomfield's, open 24 hours. Sheriff's Office, oh, that's a really good doctor. He's open 24 hours. Sheriff's Office, 24 hours. Johnson's Bait and Tackle, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Saturday. The Bleakmore Cemetery has its own booklet. And all locations that have an asterisk in front of them are available to us right from the start, but places like Jebediah Wattle's residence or Clovis Blocher's residence are not available right now. Dove's Bay locations. Once you have been given the particulars, yada, yada, yada. Once you are done at a particular location, you may simply return to the directory and make another selection. Some locations may lead you to a number of encounters for adventures, and you must play these out before you can return to the directory. Entries are numbered from 1 to 404 in the main solo and 1 to approximately 100 in the 5 sub-solos. So that's Bleakmore Cemetery, Thompson's Bridge, Palmer's Orchard, McKiernan's Lighthouse and Hutchins Cave. The entry numbers are in large bold print. If the entry is in a location or room, the name will appear in bold-faced capital letters. The entry will supply you with all the information available at that location and will offer you a chance to move on or attempt to gain further information where you are. When you are ready to leave an entry, you may refer to go-to numbers at the end of the entry. If there are no go-to instructions, you must either return to the entry which brought you to this point, or if you are at a location, simply move on by consulting the next directory. Next, the time notation will tell you how long you have spent at an entry. Mark this time off on your timetable. Your research points, if any, will follow and will appear in the format 3RP. Beneath each entry will be a list of trace numbers which will tell you what entries could have brought you to the paragraph you are reading. From time to time, the phrase "the end" will appear at the bottom of an entry. This means that, for better or worse, the scenario is over, either through the solution of the mystery or the untimely demise of your investigator. In either case, you may generate another investigator and attack the problem from a different angle. Whenever it is necessary for you to make a specific roll in this scenario, the notation will appear at the end of the entry in the following format. Spot hidden, success go there, failure go there. So this is pretty much simple. If you've ever played anything like this, this is not so difficult. If more than one roll is offered, you have a choice. You may select one roll and attempt it. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're planning on playing this, don't watch this because this will be full of spoilers. And of course, if you have to make a roll which results in you having to adjust your stats, you have to do this. They also have sanity stuff that can happen. I'm not going to use this because I've got cards for this. And then we have the research points and successful adventure. So it basically tells you if you have X amount of research points, is this a good result or, you know, a bad result? And also a couple of questions that you can answer in order to give you more information. I'm not going to look at those yet. Sound advice. Think. Careful planning and thoughtful strategy can do you a great service and cost none of your valuable time. Make the best use of your time, especially when visiting Dogs Bay locations. Organize sleep and meal times and keep track of business hours. Plan on running into a few false leads. Try to know who your friends are and make use of them. Exercise caution and take nothing at face value. Remember that on this case, you are completely on your own. There will be no fellow investigator to back you up or pull your fat from the fire if you make an error in judgment. Don't eat the apple pie in the seaside tavern. To begin, the radiant sun of an August morning beats down on the roof of your flivver as you chug into the sleepy little seacoast town of Doves Bay. Like every other coastal town in Maine, this is first and foremost a fishing village, although it is also quite popular as a summer hideaway of the idle rich, whose estates dot the craggy coastline around the bay. All in all, it looks as perfect as a picture postcard. With a good night's sleep and a full 7 a.m. breakfast behind you, you feel well prepared for the case upon which you are about to embark. As you wend your way through the quaint village streets, you review the information that you already have in your possession and as set forth in the letter you received early this week. So this is... Let's just make this easy on us. Let's just number our days. So today is the 1st of August, 1922. And we will say it's a Monday. We had breakfast at 7 a.m. So it is now 8 a.m. So this is when we start. 8 a.m. We may now read handout GI1. Dear Antigone, when I first read about you in the New England Journal of Parapsychology, I knew that you were the very person who could help me. I own a real estate business in Doves Bay, Maine, and I have made quite a good living reselling the various summer cottages and estates which make up the town. However, there is one property, one of the larger estates, that I simply cannot sell, and I think you can help me to accomplish that. You see, for years now, the old Grim house of Grimrock has had the reputation of being haunted. Several realtors before me have attempted to handle the property, but these persistent rumors made it impossible for them, and now for me as well. I would very much like to commission you to investigate Grim House and, one way or another, clear it of its dark reputation so that I may unload it, as they say. I would be willing to pay $50 per day for your services, plus a fee equaling 10% of the estate's sale price at such time as it is purchased through me. I estimate that on today's market, the estate would sell at well over $1 million. If this offer is acceptable, please call me at 555-3693 and I will arrange accommodations for you and any assistance you might deem necessary for this case. I anxiously await your call. Well, we're not bringing any assistance. So this is signed by Tobias Armbruster, who we know owns the Doves Bay Realty, Tobias Armbruster. So, I'll just let you in on, because it does say that whatever you bring is what you have, and it's something you need to be able to carry, but you can't have more than what you brought. Anything else will have to be bought. So, we have a suitcase, which contains, you know, like your normal clothes, nothing special, like underwear, changes of clothes. I will bring one set of kind of like good evening dress that I could wear if there was ever a function that I needed to attend. But considering that I'm here to do some investigation, I will actually be wearing very, as they say, reasonable clothes. And also obviously bring with me pants and, you know, like a tweed suit, which would help me if it ever got really cold. I will also bring oilskins because I am going to an island. I have my 45 automatic. I've got a compact mirror as well, a small pen knife, a small blade, like a small knife, a walking cane, 30 foot of rope, sturdy boots, lantern and oil, notebooks, pencils, penknife for sharpening the pencils, 56 bullets for my 45 automatic, and a first aid kit, obviously. And it's now 8 a.m. and we have arrived. So what I'm going to do is because Mr. Armbruster isn't available yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Doves Bay Gazette, which opens at 8 a.m. And I'm going to try and do some research on the estate that I'm going to be looking at. Let's see, 12. Doves Bay Gazette is owned and operated by Duncan Kirkcaldy. I'm just going to make a couple of notes. So when we go there, by the time, so we basically arrive and now it's 8:15 and we are there. So let's go to the Gazette, Doves Bay Gazette. And we have different things we can do. It's owned by and operated by Duncan Kirkcaldy, who maintains a complete file of the paper's past editions. If you wish to consult them, you may inquire at 36 or simply strike up a conversation with Duncan at 32. Let's talk to Duncan first. So we're going to go to 32 and there is no time involved in this. So let's go to 32 and say hi to him and introduce ourselves. Duncan will refresh your coffee and show you down a flight of stairs to the cellar. So that was 1 hour that we spent. So it's now 8:15, 8:30, 8:45, 9, 9:15. We get to read GI 17. Okay. Duncan brews a pot of coffee and you sit discussing the town and its scandals. Eventually the conversation comes round to Lazarus Grim and Grimrock Isle. Okay, so Lazarus Grim and Grimrock Isle. And Duncan says, oh, there was a coven in Doves Bay, you know. Of course, coming up with proof of it, well, that was another critter altogether. Have to be careful where rich and powerful men like old Lazarus are concerned. There was a coven. Talk around town was that Grim led the coven, and I, for one, am inclined to believe it. My father described him as an evil man. Evil in thought, evil in deed, and evil in appearance. So, led by Lazarus, who was very evil indeed. There were others in town who were nearly as bad. Wattles, other evil people include Wattles, Martins, Cleats, and Bloch. To name a few of the worst, they were part of it, and look where it got them. Disappeared without a trace one night in 1846. In 1846. And never a word heard from them since. Now, no one ever really found out where Captain Grim got all his wealth. True, he owned a ship and sailed the Pacific for a good many years, but still, I mean, where did he get enough money to buy that ship in the first place? Him, a mere deckhand. And word went around that he paid for it in gold. Not coin, mind you, but in solid ingots of the purest gold anyone had ever seen. Okay. Paid in ingots of gold. So first of all, we're going to get 15 research points for this. That's number one. Number two, he now tells us to go down a flight of steps into the cellar and 80. So that's probably where the archive is. Let's see. The newspaper morgue is located in the basement, and back issues of the papers have been kept well preserved and in good order. For every 15 minutes you spend researching, you may make a library use roll. You may read what you have found at the following entries, and once you have done so, return here and try for another. Once you are done, you may leave for 73. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to make a decision. Do we spend some time? And I think we do. We will spend some time, and I'm going to make a library use roll. So let's just take this D20. And we're going to make a little roll and see where we get. Okay, so our library use is actually quite high. I mean, she is an antiquarian after all. And it is... $75. So let's roll. And we spend 15 minutes to bring us to 9:30. And we rolled a 2. Sorry, that's like, what am I rolling? This is a D20. I was playing D&D last night and I'm completely off my rocker. I need a 100. Okay, so here we are. That's a 10. And let's get our percentile. You can tell I haven't been playing Call of Cthulhu in a long while. Here we are, percentile dice. And I rolled a 0-9, which is a very good roll indeed. So let's see what we find at number 99. You may read handout GI18, which is going to cost us another 15 minutes and add 5 research points. GI18. July 1919. Toby Jones told authorities today he saw an enormous rat scurry through Palmer's orchard last evening, a rat nearly 4 feet tall. What has Toby been drinking these days? Okay, that was July 1919, and Toby Jones saw a 4 foot tall rat run through Palmer's orchard. Then we will go back and we will do another library use roll, which brings us up to 10. And that's a 41. We succeed and we go to 4. You may read handout GI19. And this one takes us back to the last century. August 1888. First we add 5 research points and we add another 15 minutes, so it's now 10:15. GI19, August 1888. Joshua Lamson. A student at Brown University told this reporter that his 4 missing companions, also college students, had intended to explore the house on Grimrock Isle. Though that is where the young men's rental boat was found, there still remains no trace of the students. 4 students went missing on Grimrock Isle. Okay. And now the last one. In for a penny, in for a pound. Since we're here anyway, let's see if we can do this again. 62 is still a pass. 10:30. We are now at 57. Actually, no, we're not. 57, you may now read handout GI20 and we get 10 resource points, 10 research points. June 1888. Willard Loomis was arrested today for assaulting Mr. Lazarus Grimm. As he stepped out of Macumber's bait and tackle, as he was dragged off, Mr. Loomis accused Mr. Grimm of witchcraft. When questioned on the allegation, Mr. Loomis refused to comment further and is currently serving a 30-day sentence for assault. When asked about the charge of witchcraft, Mr. Grimm told this reporter, "The man is a lunatic, should be locked up for considerably more than a month." Okay. Which also means that we have kind of exhausted anything we can do at the newspaper at the moment. We are now leaving for 73. You may now proceed to any Doves Bay location. And we are now going to meet our I guess it's easiest if we now go and find our employer, Mr. Armbruster. So it's now 10:30 and we're gonna go to Doves Bay Realty, Tobias Armbruster, number 17. Tobias Armbruster can be found at his office during regular business hours. He will be most anxious to hear the results of your investigation. Oh, there isn't really anything we can do. Before the deadline, if you successfully exercised Grimhouse, no. If you destroyed the evil Grimhouse, okay. So we're not going to go here because obviously that's all he can do. So basically anything he can do for us is only if we've done stuff. So I thought that we could talk to him based on this letter, but we can't. So we're not going to spend the time. That was stupid. So now we're going to go to Mrs. Gordon's boarding house because I do want to get something, a place to stay, 7 to 7. Mrs. Gordon's boarding house was once a palatial manor house. Oh, nice. But hard times forced the family to remodel and take in boarders. Now only motherly old Mrs. Gordon is left, but she's unflagging in her efforts to see to the comfort of her guests. A comfortable, homey room rents for $1 a day. A $10 deposit is required for weekly boarders. Each guest is given his or her own key, but I'll have proper behavior if you don't mind, she informs you sternly. I tolerate no drunkenness or uncivil behavior, and I would hope you would consider your fellow boarders if you should return late of an evening. Meals are served promptly at 8 a.m., noon, and 6 p.m. Beyond these ground rules, you are free to come and go as you please. Note, each time you return to the boarding house, you roll a d6. If you roll a 1, consult the event table at paragraph 200 and proceed from there. If you do not roll a 1, you may return to the directory and go about your business as usual. Okay. So I'm just going to deduct, I was given $50 anyway for my first day. So I'm just going to deduct 40. I'm just going to deduct 10 to give to the boarding house. So we've secured lodgings. We need to eat every 8 hours. So we started at 7. So that's then 1,500 hours that we have to eat again. Is anything open? Because well, I guess we could. I suggest we go to the library and then return because it's now 10:30. So if we go to the library, it's 10:45, and we could return and have lunch. 10:45. We go to the library. 88. The Charles Public Library. For each half hour you spend here, you may research one subject. You must observe the library's hours and leave promptly at closing time. To research a subject, you must make one successful library roll per subject. You cannot roll twice for the same subject on the same day, but you may return the next day and try again. The subjects we have are local history, Lazarus Grim, occult, and other. And we can also make a spot hidden. On an 86, I think we fail. Oh yes, we failed by 1. Okay, so that was that. Let's spend half an hour to 11:15 and let's research local history. Let's make a library use roll. 71, we pass. And we go to 69. You may read handout G12, and we also get 5 points. G12. Oh, that's a big one. The great storm of All Hallows Eve in the year 1846 marked a time of great strife and hardship for the people of Dove's Bay. That's 1846. On the 31st of October, great storm. Depending on the sea for their livelihood, were devastated by the damage wrought by the storm upon their ships and equipment. Resentment of the wealthy estate owners who used Dove's Bay as a summer home grew in direct proportion to the strife of the villagers. At times, this resentment boiled over into violence. The police reports of that time show a marked increase in the number of vandalisms, all unsolved and all directed at those summer cottages of the well-to-do. There were only 2 occasions of actual assault, but they were played down by the authorities and charges were never pressed. There was one incident at that time, however, that went far beyond the pushing and shoving stage and crossed the line into ugly mob violence directed at one of the area's largest property owners. On November 3rd, 1846, a group of enraged and, we can only presume, drunken villagers mounted an assault on the island estate of a Mr. Lazarus Grimm. That was 1846, and 22 years later, Willard Loomis tried to assault Lazarus Grimm and accused him of witchcraft. That was in June, and in August 1888, 4 students went missing on Grimrock Isle. Okay. Inflicting substantial damage to the mansion and adjacent outbuildings. More importantly, during the course of this raid, the main house was put to the torch, and Mr. Grimm, a widower, and his 3 servants were reported to have perished in the flames. He really is a Lazarus if he then comes back 22 years later to be assaulted. Lazarus and 3 servants are reported dead in the fire. As in all minor cases which preceded it, the investigation into the incident was half-hearted. What do you mean minor? And no satisfactory conclusions were ever reached. Well, if you treat a house fire that was caused by a raving mob and kills 4 people, a minor incident, and you investigate it only half-heartedly, of course you won't find anything. This, of course, was due to the small-town mentality which caused the townsfolk to band together against the outsiders whom they perceived to be wallowing in their wealth, while they, the townsfolk, suffered. However, the incident at Grimrock Isle seems to have been the culmination of hostilities between the groups, and once the initial furor of the event died down, life more or less returned to normal in Dove's Bay, and nobody finds it strange that 22 years later Lazarus Grimm is still around. It is perhaps fortunate that Mr. Grimm had no heirs to press for a more thorough investigation of the raid, for had such been the case, the situation in that little hamlet would only have worsened until it resembled the range wars of the Old West. 2, the vast improvement in the local fishing industry helped to cool things off considerably. With the boats coming in with full holds, there was enough food and enough profit to see these hard-working families through another winter. Still, it was not until 1848 that the estate owners began summering in Dove's Bay once again, fearing their presence would generate a resurgence of the old hostilities. That doesn't make sense. Okay, that's New England towns information. New England towns. That does not make any sense. June 1888. I'll have to go back and check, did I write this down wrongly? 57. GI20. June 1888. Okay, so if this is the same Lazarus, then I mean this is strange because it says here this happened in 1846. It also states that Mr. Lazarus Grimm had no heirs. But if he is then accused 22 years later by Mr. Loomis of being a wizard or warlock or witch coven leader, that makes no sense. And people should find this really strange. Okay, so that's interesting to say the least. And what I'm going, because this is intriguing. Also, this could mean that whoever wrote this actually made a huge mistake, which would piss me off greatly. But let's just give them the benefit of the doubt. We're going to spend another half hour, and then we're going to go for lunch. So let's see. We're going to investigate Lazarus Grimm, 44. And we rolled a 44, which is incidentally more than enough. Let's see, 44. You may read handout G814 and add 15 research points. So GI14. Here we are. Grimm, Lazarus. Lazarus Grimm, 1806 to 1846. Born in Weymouth, Massachusetts, Grimm spent his youth on the Boston docks, where he signed on aboard a merchantman at the age of 16. By the age of 25, Grimm was given his own ship, and when the company he worked for went bankrupt, he was able to purchase the vessel and go into business himself. Captain Grimm plied the Pacific for the next 10 years, until he was pretty much 35, 36. During which time he amassed a considerable fortune, though the nature of his cargo was never known. This proved to be the source of a certain amount of unflattering speculation, reinforced by the fact that his clients were all of a most unsavory nature. Upon retirement, Captain Grimm commissioned the construction of Grimm House, dislocated on a small island off the coast of Maine. There's an F missing. Near the small fishing village of Dove's Bay. There he moved with his wife, Alma. He's got a wife, Alma. And their household staff of 3 Polynesian and 3 Polynesian servants, whom it is assumed Captain Grimm acquired on his travels through the Pacific. In the fall of 1846, Mr. Grimm was presumed to have been killed in an attack on his estate by a band of locals, who for some reason blamed him for the difficulties being experienced by the village at the time. No bodies were ever discovered, nor was any trace of either Lazarus or his servants ever found. Whatever happened to the wife? Therefore, the date of his death can only be an approximation based on existing facts. That's really weird. Okay, so what we're going to do is we are going to make a note to return to the library. And we're going to go to 12 noon, and we're going to have lunch at the boarding house, which is going to take us an hour. So we're going to just go here, 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 lunch. So now we have until 9 o'clock in the evening before we have to eat again. And I think what I would do in the afternoon is go back to the library and conclude our research there. And then also go to Enos Wade's boat rentals. And that's what we're going to do before I close down this recording for today. It's 15 minutes. Enos Wade's boat rental. Enos is a crusty old salt who will never turn down the chance to make $1. For 25, he will ferry you across the bay to Grimrock Isle. You want me to pick you back up? To pick you back up, you light the lamp on the island dock, and I'll be there in an hour or so. Costs another $25. That's fine. Whenever you are ready to make the crossing, do so at 76. Okay. Good. So we would go to 76 to cross, and it's going to take us an hour. Plus 1 hour back. So we should do this the next morning. Okay, so I'm going to move over to the library. It's now 11:45, and then we're going to do some more research. And I will finish this recording now, and we will see what we shall see when we go back to the library. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.